Hey, world history students. So, I'm going to show you how you should both listen to this video or watch this video and open up your own copy to highlight and work on. All right. And then I'm going to read it for you so you can follow along. So, the first thing I want you to do is you should be in the classroom, and it should look kind of similar to this. And you can click on the assignment of Body Rituals of the Nacirema. And then it hasn't been posted yet because the video that's going to be posted there is the one I'm currently recording for you. But you'll click on the video, and it'll open up the video in a new tab. And what you're going to do is drag it to the side so that it has half of the screen. And then I want you to open up the Body Rituals of the Nacirema reading. Again, open up in a separate screen, and you are going to drag it to the side, just like that. And then you'll have the video on one side, which obviously this is not the video because I'm recording the video right now. I can't pull it up for you. And then this side, you'll have the screen that you can annotate and highlight and follow along on if you would like. All right. Hopefully that helps in setting it up. But so once you do that, we're going to read this together. All right. So follow along. And what I want you to do is I want you to highlight anything that you find funny or weird or strange or ridiculous, anything that stands out to you in this reading. So I'm going to be reading this article called The Body Ritual Among the Nacirema by Horace Minor. This is something that was shared with me when I was in college, actually. Horace Minor is an anthropologist, which means he studies cultures. And this is called an ethnography, which is a style of writing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Remember, highlight anything you find weird, funny, interesting, strange, gross. There's going to be some gross things in here. I want you to just take it and highlight it. Bam. Highlighter. Yellow. All right. Start up here. Most cultures exhibit a particular configuration or style. A single value or pattern of perceiving the world often leaves its stamp on several institutions in the society. Examples are machismo in Spanish-influenced cultures, face in Japanese culture, and pollution by females in some Highland New Guinea cultures. Here, Horace Minor demonstrates that attitudes about the body have a pervasive influence on many institutions in Nacireman society. So basically, Horace Minor was an anthropologist back in, you can see here, 1956, wrote this ethnography in which he went and studied this group of people called the Nacirema. And they're really strange, really weird people. And then he wrote about it. And it blew people's mind because people didn't know how strange these people were or really much about them at all. All right, so here we go. The anthropologist has become so familiar with the diversity of ways in which different peoples behave in similar situations that he is not apt to be surprised by even the most exotic customs. In fact, if all of the logically possible combinations of behavior have not been found somewhere in the world, he is apt to suspect that they must be present in some yet undescribed tribe. This point has, in fact, been expressed with respect by clan organization by Murdoch. There's some resources at the end of this, so if you really were interested in what Murdoch had to say, you could go to that and see. In this light, the magical beliefs and practices of the Nacirema present such unusual aspects that it seems desirable to describe them as an example of the extremes to which human behavior can go. So basically what he's saying is, as an anthropologist, they're pretty much used to seeing everything until he learned and met with these Nacirema. and they are so weird and so strange that they shouldn't even be represented as an example of most cultures and should only be considered like the extreme of cultures. Professor Linton first brought the ritual of the Nacirema to the attention of anthropologists 20 years ago. But the culture of this people is still very poorly understood. They are a North American group living in the territory between Canadian Creole, the Yankee, and the Terra Mahare of Mexico, and the Carib and Arawak of the Antilles. Little is known of their origin, although tradition states that they come from the east. So we've got this kind of location where they might be or where they're located, and we don't know a ton about their history, but we know they're from the east somewhere. Nacireman culture is characterized by a highly developed market economy, which has evolved in a that's probably supposed to be has evolved, which has evolved in a rich natural habitat. While much of the people's time is devoted to economic pursuits, a large part of the fruits of these labors and a considerable portion of the day are spent in ritual activity. So they're doing rituals a good portion of their day. Now you'll see through here some of the things on this are underlined. That's because they were, for some reason, interesting at some point. But remember, I want you to highlight anything you find interesting, weird, strange, or funny. So if you think the fact that these Nacirema people spend a lot of their time doing ritual activity, then you could go ahead and highlight that. The focus of this activity is the human body. So this ritual activity that the Nacirema are spending is typically about the human body. The appearance and health of which loom as a dominant concern in the ethos of the people. While such a concern is certainly not unusual, its ceremonial aspects and associated philosophy are unique. The fundamental belief underlining the whole system appears to be that the human body is ugly and that its natural tendency is to debility and disease. So these people believe that the human body is ugly, filled with debility and disease. Incarcerated in such a body, man's only hope to avert these characteristics through the use of powerful influences of ritual and ceremony. Every household has one or more shrines devoted to this purpose. So basically, these Nacirema people think that the body is ugly and that its tendency is always going to be towards debility and disease. And the only way to avert from that is through this like regular ritual and through ceremonies, and then using these shrines that they're going to start dating described and all these different magical potions and stuff. The more powerful individuals in society have several shrines in their houses, and in fact, the opulence of a house is often referred to in terms of a number of such ritual centers it possesses. Most houses are of wattle and daub construction, so that's how their houses are built. But the shrine rooms of the more wealthy are walled with stone. Poorer families imitate the rich by applying pottery plaques to their shrine walls. While each family has at least one such shrine, the rituals associated with it are not family ceremonies, but are private and secret. So in these shrines that they have, they don't do family rituals or family ceremonies. These are only things that each individual person does on their own, apparently. The rites are normally only discussed with children, and then only during the period when they are being initiated into these mysteries. So people don't talk about their ceremonies either, only with little kids. I was able, however, to establish sufficient rapport with the natives to examine these shrines and to have their rituals described to me. So Horace Minor, despite adults not usually talking about it, was able to get information about what's going on in these shrines. The focal point of the shrine is a box or chest built into the wall. In this chest are kept the many charms and magical potions without which no native believes he could live. These preparations are secured from a variety of specialized practitioners. The most powerful of these are the medicine men, whose assistance must be rewarded with substantial gifts. So, medicine men are given these great gifts, and then in turn give these different potions and magical charms. However, the medicine men do not provide the curative potions for their clients, but decide what the ingredients should be and then write them down in an ancient and secret language. This writing is understood only by the medicine men and the herbalist, who, for another gift, provide the charm. So the medicine man uses this ancient language to communicate to the herbalist, who then the person who's trying to get this goes to them, gives them another gift, and then will get whatever the magic potions they are looking for. The charm is not disposed of after it has served its purpose, but is placed in the charm box of the household shrine. As these magical materials are specific for certain ills, and the real or imagined maladies of the people are many, the charm box is usually full to overflowing. The magical packets are so numerous that people forget what their purposes were and fear to use them again. So you get all these magical potions, they use them, but if they don't run out of them, then they put them in the charm box, and then they sit there and they forget what they're for, and then they're afraid to use them. While the natives are very vague on this point, we can only assume that the idea of retaining all the old magical materials is that their presence in the charm box, before which their body rituals are conducted, will in some way protect the worshiper. Remember, if you find anything in this that you think is weird or funny or interesting, go ahead and hit pause in the video and then go back and highlight that part. Because at the very end, we're going to go over the things that you guys all found really interesting. Beneath the charm box is a small font. Each day, every member of the family in succession enters the shrine room, bows his head before the charm box, mingles different sorts of holy water in the font, and proceeds with a brief rite of ablution. The holy waters are secured from the water temple of the community, where the priests conduct elaborate ceremonies to make the liquid ritually pure. Wow, there's a lot of craziness there. In the hierarchy of magical practitioners, and below the medicine men in prestige, are specialists whose designation is best translated holy mouth men. The Nacirema have an almost pathological horror of and fascination with the mouth, the condition of which is believed to have a supernatural influence on all social relationships. Were it not for the ritual of the mouth, they believe that their teeth would fall out, their gums bleed, their jaw sockets shrink, their friends desert them, and their lovers reject them. They also believe that a strong relationship exists between oral and moral characteristics. For example, there is a ritual ablution of the mouth for children, which is supposed to improve their moral fiber. Crazy. The daily body ritual performed by everyone includes a mouth rite. Despite the fact that these people are so, I don't even know this word, punctual about care of the mouth, this rite involves a practice which strikes the uninitiated stranger as revolting. So if you don't know it, it scares you. It was reported to me that the ritual consists of inserting a small bundle of hog hairs into the mouth, along with certain magical powders, and then moving the bundle in a highly formalized series of gestures. In addition to the private mouth rite, the people seek out the holy mouth man once or twice a year. These practitioners have an impressive set of paraphernalia, consisting of a variety of augurs, owls, probes, and prods. The use of these objects in the exorcism of the evils of the mouth involve almost unbelievable ritual torture of the client. The holy mouth man opens the client's mouth and, using the above mentioned tools, enlarges any holes which decay may have created in the teeth. Magical materials are put into these holes. If there no naturally, if there, sorry, I should say are, I'm assuming. If there are no naturally occurring holes in the teeth, large section of or more teeth are gouged out so that the supernatural substance can be applied. In the client's view, the purpose of these ministrations is to arrest decay and to draw friends. The extremely sacred and traditional character of the rite is evident in the fact that the natives return to the holy mouthman year after year, despite the fact that their teeth continue to decay. It is to be hoped that when a thorough study of the Nacirema is made, there will be careful inquiry into the personality structure of these people. One has but to watch the gleam in the eye of the holy mouthman as he jabs an owl into the exposed nerve to suspect that certain amount of sadism is involved. That means like enjoying hurting. If this can be established, a very interesting pattern emerges. For most of the population, shows definite masochistic tendencies. That means that they want to be hurt. It was to these that Professor Linton referred in discussing a distinctive part of the daily body ritual, which is performed only by men. This part of the rite involves scraping and lacerating the surface of the face with a sharp instrument. Ugh. Special women's rites are performed only 4 times during each lunar month. But what they lack in frequency is made up in barbarity. As part of the ceremony, women bake their heads in small ovens for about an hour. The theoretically interesting point is that what seems to be preponderantly masochistic people have developed sadistic specialists. So even though it seems like the Nacirema like to torture themselves or to be tortured or hurt, some people have formed specialties in being the people who do the torturing or do the hurting. The medicine men have an imposing temple, or latispo, in every community of any size. The more elaborate ceremonies required to treat very sick patients can only be performed at this temple. These ceremonies involve not only the thaumaturg, but a permanent group of Vestal maidens who move sedately about the temple chambers in distinctive costume and headdress. The latispo ceremonies are so harsh that it is phenomenal that a fair portion of the really sick natives who enter the temple ever recover. So the fact that they ever recover from going into this temple is kind of amazing. Small children whose indoctrination is still incomplete have been known to resist attempts to take them to the temple because, quote, that is where you go to die, end quote. Despite this fact, sick adults are not only willing, but eager to undergo the protracted ritual purification, if they can afford to do so. No matter how ill the supplicant or how grave the emergency, the guardians of many temples will not admit a client if he cannot give a rich gift to the custodian. Even after one has gained admission and survived the ceremonies, the guardians will not permit the neophyte to leave until he makes still another gift. So again, more gift giving, more gift giving, more gift giving, in order to essentially hurt you or risk your life. So the supplicant entering the temple is first stripped of all his or her clothes. In everyday life, the Nacirema avoid exposure of his body and its natural functions. Bathing and excretory acts are performed only in the secrecy of the household shrine, where they are ritualized as part of the body rites. Psychological shock results from the fact that the body secrecy is suddenly lost upon entry into the latispa. A man whose own wife has never seen him in an excretory act suddenly finds himself naked and assisted by a Vestal maiden while he performs his natural functions into a sacred vessel. That's really gross and weird. This sort of ceremonial treatment is necessitated by the fact that the excreta are used by the diviner to ascertain the course and nature of the client's sickness. Female clients, on the other hand, find their naked bodies are subject to the scrutiny, manipulation, and prodding of the medicine men. Few supplicants in the temple are well enough to do anything but lie on their hard beds. The daily ceremonies, like the rite of the Holy Mouthmen, involve discomfort and torture. With ritual precision, the Vestals awaken their miserable charges each dawn and roll them about on their beds of pain while performing ablutions, in the formal movements of which the maidens are highly trained. At other times, they insert magic wands in the supplicant's mouth or force him to eat substances which are supposed to be healing. From time to time, the medicine men come to their clients and jab magically treated needles into their flesh. The fact that these temple ceremonies may not cure and may even kill the neophyte in no way decreases the people's faith in the medicine men. Whew. So, again, I want you to be highlighting or underlining or changing the color of anything you find in this to be gross or funny or weird. Make sure you're doing that as we go along. There remains one kind of practitioner known as the listener. This witch doctor has the power to exorcise the devils that lodge in the heads of the people who may have been bewitched. The Nacirema believe that parents bewitch their own children. Mothers are particularly suspected of putting a curse on children while teaching them the secret body rituals. The counter magic of the witch doctor is unusual in its lack of ritual. So most of the Nacirema things are very ritualistic, but this thing is not, which is kind of strange. The patient simply tells the listener all his troubles and fears, beginning with the earliest difficulties he can remember. The memory displayed by the Nacirema in this exorcism session is truly remarkable. It is not uncommon for the patient to bemoan the rejection he felt upon being weaned as a babe. And a few individuals even see their troubles going back to the traumatic effects of their own birth. In conclusion, mention must be made of certain practices which have their base in native aesthetics, but which depend upon the pervasive aversion to the natural body and its functions. So some of the stuff has to do with looks, but a lot of it just has to do with not liking the body or what it does. There are ritual fasts to make fat people thin, ceremonial feasts to make thin people fat. Our review of the ritual life of the Nacirema has certainly shown them to be a magic-ridden people. It is hard to understand how they have managed to exist so long under the burdens which they have imposed upon themselves. But even such exotic customs as these take on real meaning when they are viewed with the insight provided by Malwinski when he wrote, "Looking from far and above, from our high places of safety in a developed civilization, it is easy to see all the crudity and irrelevance of magic." So basically, while we are sitting in our schools and highly developed societies, looking at our computers and listening to this, it's easy to judge those people who look at magic and use magic. But without its power and guidance, early man could not have mastered his practical difficulties as he has done, nor could man have advanced to higher stages of civilization. All right, so that is the Nacirema. So if you haven't already, I want you to go ahead, hit pause, go back and highlight all the things that you're like, these are weird people, or you laughed at, you thought was strange, that grossed you out, whatever. Maybe it was the hog hair in the mouth, or the prodding of your face, or the scraping and lacerating of your face, or the baking of heads, whatever. And then at the very end, I want you to scroll down, and I want you to write 4 questions you have for or about the Nacirema. So I want you to go ahead in there and type in, if you were able to talk to someone who was a Nacirema, or someone who is an expert about the Nacirema, what questions do you have about them or for them? All right. So I want you to go ahead and type those 4 questions in there. And then that is what you are done with for now. Mr. Aaron will share some more with you later on. Thanks, guys.